to change this country spectacularly in 3 years. So I don't have 10 years. I don't have 5 years. I don't have 6 months to decide whether or not and go to court. No, I don't have that time. People, yourselves, need accommodation. And if I'm going to submit myself to a process that will take me 10 years to deliver accommodation to you, then I would have failed you, and failed you spectacularly. So what do we do? We need to ensure that there's transparency, there's openness, there's accountability in each and every process that we undertake. No doubt, that is not negotiable, and that there is no corruption. System. And you say, whatever we do, we must not do this one. He say he's trying to give tenders to his relatives. I want you to know my relatives. Just check. You'll know them. You need to know them so that you can track whether any one of my relatives has any tender. You need to ascertain, you need to be sure about these things. So that when these allegations are flung about, because one is seeking to move from an entrenched system of corruption to something that offers us some redemption, yet you are able to interrogate the allegations. And we must interrogate the allegations together. And so it's going to be very critical for us to find ways of moving away from this corrupt system and engaging in a different one that we can monitor and track, one that delivers results timelessly, within budget, no corruption. And so we need to look for the best practices. And that we will do.
Good evening, Africa. Good evening to our brothers and sisters around the world. Tonight we bring you breaking news from Southern Africa that is already being described as a landmark shift in African economic policy. It's not just a story of wages being raised, it's a story of leadership, dignity, independence, and a growing wave of defiance against neo-colonial economic structures that have held our people back for decades. Botswana's newly elected president, Duma Boko, has made a historic announcement, a 50% wage increase for workers across the nation, especially in key public sectors. And make no mistake, this isn't just a local policy shift, it is a bold political statement, one that echoes the revolutionary footsteps of none other than Captain Ibrahim of Burkina Faso. What we're seeing is more than a government decision, it is a spark lighting up the entire continent. For decades, African workers have carried the weight of our continent's wealth on their backs, laboring in the mines, tilling the fields, healing the sick, educating the future, all while receiving meager wages. And the story has always been the same: global institutions and foreign advisors warning African governments not to spend too much on their people. They warned that wage increases would hurt the economy. They claimed African countries must tighten their belts to remain creditworthy. Meanwhile, those very same advisors earned six-figure salaries funded by the sweat of African labor. But now that narrative is being torn apart. It all began in West Africa, where a young military captain, Ibrahim, took control of Burkina Faso with a mission to restore dignity, end foreign domination, and center the economy on the needs of the people. Launched large-scale agricultural initiatives, invested in food sovereignty, and most importantly, committed to raising the living standards of ordinary citizens. He said unapologetically, "We cannot build a sovereign Africa on the back of starving workers." That fire, that ideology, that Pan-African defiance is spreading, and now it has found a powerful ally in Southern Africa, President Duma Boko. Duma Boko's landslide victory in Botswana was not just political, it was generational. He campaigned on a platform of worker dignity, economic transformation, and regional unity. And now, just months into office, he has delivered a 50% wage increase across public sector roles: teachers, nurses, agricultural workers, transportation staff, municipal employees. This isn't mere politics, it is a rejection of the austerity gospel preached by Western financial institutions. It is a break from decades of neoliberal economic models. It is a declaration that the African worker deserves better, In his address to the nation, President Boko stated clearly, "They said we couldn't afford to pay our people. But the truth is, we couldn't afford not to. A dignified worker builds a dignified nation." Across Botswana, the announcement has been met with jubilation. In Gaborone, health workers broke into spontaneous dance. Teachers wept in classrooms. Public servants flooded social media with gratitude and disbelief. But behind closed doors in foreign embassies and boardrooms there is concern, because this isn't just a wage increase. This is a political shockwave. If Botswana, one of Africa's most respected democracies, can break with Western-imposed economic models and thrive, what's to stop others? What happens if Kenya follows? If Malawi dares to raise wages? If Namibia or Lesotho declare economic sovereignty? The house of cards built on African compliance begins to fall. What's emerging is a new pattern of Pan-African governance, one rooted in action, not theory, leaders like Assimi Gota of Mali and now Duma Boko are showing that the future of Africa is not in begging, borrowing, or complying, but in building, producing, and uplifting. This is not about antagonizing the West, it's about prioritizing Africans. It's about finally doing what's right for our people, not what's comfortable for foreign markets. And President Boko made this crystal clear when he said, "Our people are not liabilities, they are the very engines of this nation. If we invest in them, no foreign aid can match the return." Let's be honest, we are witnessing a continental awakening. There is a growing realization that Africa has everything it needs: minerals, oil, fertile lands, brilliant minds, and that we no longer need approval from Paris, Washington, or Brussels to implement policies that serve our people. With wage reforms like this, Botswana is not just improving lives, it is breaking mental chains. It is proving that an African leader can choose his people over profits, dignity over debt, and progress over permission. And this is what scares the West the most: an Africa that no longer asks, but decides. This announcement is now being discussed on international platforms. Economic analysts are warning of disruptive shifts in labor policy across Africa. Investors are being told to reconsider projections. But the truth is simple: what's disruptive for exploiters is liberating for the oppressed. Botswana has made its move. Burkina Faso made theirs months ago, and across the continent, young people, workers, and intellectuals are watching closely. Because this is not the end, it's just the beginning. So tonight, as the headlines fly and the commentary rolls in, remember this: this is about more than a 50% wage increase. This is about justice. This is about restoring dignity to the African worker. This is about leaders finally leading for the people, not for foreign applause. It is about Pan-African courage. It is about the rise of Africa First economics, and it is about a future where we no longer wonder if change is possible, but only how fast it will spread. To President Duma Boko, we say thank you for choosing your people. To Captain Ibrahim, we salute you for lighting the flame, and to the workers of Africa, know this: your value is no longer negotiable. Africa is rising, and this time it's on our own terms.
Welcome to Talk of Africa 360, your source for insightful news, analysis, and thoughtful commentary. If you value informed perspectives and fact-based reporting, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an update. Disclaimer: the content on this channel is based on reliable public sources and credible online information. It is intended strictly for educational and analytical purposes. We do not promote or endorse political violence, hate speech, or any form of discrimination. Our goal is to inform, not to inflame. Thanks for being here. Let's stay informed together.
Good evening, Africa and the world. Today, we bring you a powerful and transformative story emerging from the heart of Southern Africa, Botswana. In a move that has sent shockwaves through both regional and international economic circles, President Duma Boko of Botswana has boldly followed in the footsteps of one of Africa's rising political figures, Captain Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso, by announcing a historic 50% wage increase for workers across critical sectors of the country. This isn't just an economic announcement. It is a loud declaration of African independence, a reassertion of dignity for workers long exploited, and a testament to the growing Pan-African momentum that seeks to dismantle the exploitative frameworks of the past. Let us take you into the heart of this powerful moment. The inspiration: Traore's revolutionary worker-centered policies. To understand the magnitude of President Boko's announcement, we must first appreciate the wave of leadership that has been sweeping across West Africa under the bold command of Burkina Faso's president, Captain Ibrahim Traore. Traore, barely in his mid-30s, has taken on foreign interests with a clarity rarely seen in post-colonial African leadership. One of his most lauded policies has been his commitment to economic justice, especially through living wages, food security, and direct investment in local productivity. Under his administration, Burkina Faso has shifted away from dependency on foreign aid and instead built policies rooted in sovereignty and worker empowerment. It was Traore who said, "If we want a dignified Africa, we must treat the hands that build it with dignity." His action-oriented leadership has evidently inspired his peers, and now President Duma Boko has stepped forward to translate those same principles into Botswana's economic framework. The 50% wage increase, a bold move toward economic dignity. Botswana, long regarded as one of Africa's more stable economies, has historically balanced between maintaining Western trade relationships and meeting internal demands. But under Duma Boko's new leadership, the priorities have been decisively reoriented. Announced to thunderous applause in Gaborone, President Boko's wage reform package will increase salaries for public sector workers by 50%, recalibrate the minimum wage in private sectors to reflect living cost realities, ensure automatic wage indexation aligned with inflation for the next 5 years, boost wages particularly in agriculture, education, healthcare, and public infrastructure. President Boko did not shy away from declaring why he made this bold decision. The time has come to honor the labor of our people. The West told us that paying our workers more would crash our economy. But what they feared wasn't our fall, it was our rise. A well-paid African worker is a liberated African nation. This is more than rhetoric. This is policy translated into national ethos. Economic independence as a political statement. Why is this wage reform so significant? Because it redefines the power dynamic. For decades, Africa's economic policies, especially wage-related policies, have been shaped under the looming shadow of Western financial institutions like the IMF, the World Bank, and foreign donor nations that often tie assistance to austerity. These institutions pushed for wage freezes, mass retrenchments, reduction in public sector spending. They called it fiscal discipline. In reality, it was a slow strangulation of Africa's working class, meant to keep nations perpetually dependent and unable to develop indigenous strength. Now, Botswana under Boko, just like Burkina Faso under Traore, is rejecting that script. And the people are responding. The people's reaction, joy, hope, and a renewed social contract. The streets of Gaborone, Francistown, and Mon erupted in jubilant celebration following the president's announcement. Teachers danced in school courtyards. Health workers wept with joy outside their clinics. Civil servants hugged one another in disbelief. For many, this wasn't just a raise, it was recognition. For decades, African workers have powered national economies with little reward. Now, finally, they are being seen as the cornerstone of national development, not as disposable labor. One elderly nurse, 62 years old, told a reporter, "For the first time, I feel that my government sees me, not just as a number, but as a builder of this nation." This is the psychological liberation that comes with economic justice. And this is the kind of leadership Africa has long been yearning for. Pan-African impact. The rise of a continental workers' revolution. What does this mean for the rest of Africa? It means a new standard is being set. Traore's vision has already inspired Mali, Niger, and Guinea to rethink how they treat their workers and use their resources. Now that Botswana has taken this bold leap, it sends a clear message to countries in Southern, Central, and East Africa. Dignity is not a dream, it's a decision. We are witnessing the formation of a Pan-African workers' revolution, where leaders are choosing to center policies around their citizens instead of chasing validation from international institutions. There is a new consciousness rising, one that says African prosperity doesn't need to come from Europe's approval or America's donations. It comes from valuing the African worker, building African infrastructure, and trusting African potential. The West's response: silent panic behind closed doors. Predictably, Western diplomats and financial institutions have begun to express concern over the sustainability of Botswana's wage increase. Some have hinted at investor unease and macroeconomic instability. But let us decode that language. Investor unease means Western corporations are worried they may have to start paying fair wages. Macroeconomic instability is code for the fear that more African nations will follow this model. and concern for fiscal balance is often a smokescreen for protecting foreign extractive interests. But this time, Africa is not listening. Botswana's finance minister, standing beside President Boko, responded calmly to a foreign journalist's question on the matter. "We are not asking the West how to value our people. That chapter is closed. The bigger picture, a return to African priorities, what we're seeing is the reshaping of African priorities. Where previous regimes might have looked outward for guidance, Boko's government is looking inward to the heartbeat of the nation, its workers, farmers, teachers, nurses, engineers. This is a return to the ideals of Kwame Nkrumah, Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba, who all believe that Africa's destiny lies in the hands of its people, not in foreign policy chambers thousands of miles away. Botswana is now part of this revival. And as President Boko declared in his closing remarks, "We are not trying to impress the world. We are here to build our own." Conclusion, a message to the continent and beyond to Africa. The torch has been lit. From Ouagadougou to Gaborone, a new wind is blowing. One of courage, dignity, and unshakable love for the African people. To the West, the game has changed. The rules are no longer written in Paris, Brussels, or Washington. Africa is reclaiming its pen, writing its own story, one chapter at a time. To the world, watch closely. The rise of an empowered African workforce signals the dawn of a new global order, one where exploitation has no place, and where justice becomes the true currency of development. And finally, to every African worker, from the mines of Botswana to the farms of Burkina Faso, know this: you are the foundation of the future. And your time is now. This is more than a wage increase. This is a revolution in values. This is Africa rising. This is history being made. And we will be here to tell it. Thank you. Stay tuned.
As reactions continue to pour in from across the continent, one thing is clear. Africa is demanding respect, sovereignty, and accountability. Was this just a diplomatic misstep or a deeper sign of shifting global alliances? We'll be watching closely. If you found this story important, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real, unfiltered African news. This is Talk of Africa 360, telling the stories that matter.